Hey, it's Thursday again here, my house, Hollywood, California, and I've dressed up for you today because I think I want to do this like every other day, right? I just want to get all dressed up and look good and happy, and no matter what the hell's going on in the world. So I'm standing here. I'm going to describe my background because my house is pretty interesting. I had lived here just a few months when I was working on a project. I had some paint left over and I decided I'm gonna do this dining room in a full-on like wallpaper looking mural, like they call it de Gournay, like that. It's kind of Asian, but it didn't necessarily want it to read as like a full-on mural. I wanted it to read as scenic, like a scenic wallpaper, like, oh, like Zuber. Now Zuber, there's the one. I don't say Zuber. I would if I were in Paris, but I just say Zuber because I live here, talk American. You're in America now, man. Your wallpaper may be French and fancy, but you're in America. Okay, now I'm going to explain this. I love this so much. I did not paint this. Now, this is a Ralph Wolf Cowan original portrait of Rudolph Valentino and Vilma Banky in The Sheik. Or it might have been Son of the Sheik. I don't know, but look at it. Isn't it lovely? Cowan was a portraitist of great, he was of great note. He did like leaders. His work was really over the top, saccharinely beautiful and pretentious. Like he's the one who did the picture of like Ronald Reagan and then Nancy Reagan, like in full like royal regalia with like sashes and things on. And I think Nancy's even got a damn tiara on her big skeletal head. But anyway, these pictures you'd know them because they're always standing on a cliff at dark with the ocean crashing behind them, but they're dressed like something from a movie. He could do that real well. And a friend of mine who was briefly his assistant in Florida, who is a really fine artist, I think. He told me once that that Cowan said, well, you work for me here and you've never really told me what you think of my work. And he said, your work is beautiful. It looks like photographs of wax figures. And he was right. They do. They look like photographs of wax figures, but I'm not against good wax figures. So anyway, here's the deal. My friend Betty, who was like my mom's age, but we were dearest besties, and I stayed with her in Santa Barbara for pretty much on and off for 5 years. We became kind of inseparable, kind of actual family. Her family didn't become my family, but she was my family. And she told me the last time that we were together, when I was like, I don't think I'll be coming up, she said, you're my family. And I said, and I'm going to say this, and I don't care. I said, the others kind of have a problem. They think that you and I are closer than they are to you. And she said, well, we are. Thanks, Betty. So one day when Betty and her sweet daughter, Lucia, were there, and just, I don't know, out of the blue, Betty said, come on, Sammy. When I'm gone, I want you to have something I really love, that you really want. And I said, as I'd said a million times, Betty, I'm fine with just what I got, which is the experience of being your friend, which is true. I wasn't being manipulative, but she said it so many times, and then this day, she said it in front of Lucia, and I think Lucia even said, yeah, Sammy, come on, if Mommy wants you to have something. And I said, all right, I want the Ralph Wolf Cowan portrait of Valentino and Vilma Banky. And Betty said, done, right, okay. I'm going to tell you that it's the only, I totally respect and honor Ralph Wolf Cowan as a fabulous artist. His work was, I'm sure that a lot of my work has been known as being kitschy too. So his work was masterful kitsch. It really was. This is the only one I could possibly live with. It's just absolutely, his style is absolutely perfect for capturing this 1921 or whatever he did this. But I can't take the ones of like, they're funny, but I just, the ones of like Florida socialites in like white pedal pushers, just sitting all kicky at the age of 55, trying to look 20. Or I think there's one out there that he did of a socialite who actually only had one leg. And that's a sad thing, but I think in the portrait, he showed the other leg. He put her in like a weird Tinkerbell kind of costume that showed the other leg completely, but did not show that on the other side she just had a stump. Okay, this is what this is my subject today is dark family secrets. And I'm going to tell you a series of dark family secrets. And at the end of them, I'm going to tell you a really cool, not today, I'm going to tell you one at a time. Just to let you know, my family has pretty much always been really clear about who we were and the bad as well as the good. And they did not go around saying, there are people in my hometown who they're not really very interested in history because according to them and what their parents have told them, their people pretty much were the first people there, invented everything, owned everything, and every mansion in town was built by their people, and they owned every bit of land all the way back to, like, the beginning of time. And it's not really kind of how it is. Everybody's got skeletons in their closet, and here's the deal. I love the skeletons in my closet. I bring them out, and I rattle them around for people to see. Pardon me. And for family members who were too stuck up, I like to throw shit in their face. It's like, well, Great Aunt Lillian had a whorehouse in Louisville on Market Street. Okay, here's what I'm going to. Here's a deep, dirty secret. These are my maternal, now get that glare off there. These are my maternal grandmother's people. And this picture was taken in about 1905 because Aunt Lola is the baby sitting on my great-grandfather's lap, and she was born, I think, in 1905, right? I will tell you what I have come to know about this family. They had more kids because after this, there were other kids born, and my mama was among them. My mama was I don't know if she was second or third from being the baby, but anyway, so I'm going to tell you, the Colvins, these were the Colvins of Love Ridge. There are other Colvins of Love Ridge. They're just like the brothers or cousins to these. I consider them all cousins. And there's Colvins still on Love Ridge, baby. And I love that. But anyway, here's the deal. I'm going to tell you who the great-grandparents were. Okay, this was Martha Goff and from Washington County. And this was Ed Colvin. But his name was not Edwin Colvin. His name was Edgar Colvin, but he always went as Ed Colvin. So when my mama had her final little child in 1940, her baby boy, she said, I'm going to name him after both of his grandfathers. I'm going to name him Thomas for Virgil's father and Edward for my father. And only then, after little Thomas Edward, Tom Ed was running around for a while, did she find out that her father's name was actually not Edward. It was Edgar. But Edward stands, right? Okay. Our great-grandfather was prone to drink. I don't think all the time. I think he was a responsible person. I know that when my grandmother became engaged at 14, he didn't have a lot of money, but he wanted her to have a dowry. So he went out and he gathered wood. I don't mean wood from trees. I mean planks and leftover lumber and stuff. And he built her a kitchen table, and he built her a nice lamp table. It's just out of rough wood with nails. I own the lamp table, but it's in my brother-in-law's basement in Kentucky. I'll probably never see it again. But, when my grandmother died in 96, and she left a substantial estate because she and Papa had done real well, and the family was very interested in family pieces, everybody was really only interested in the fancy pieces. And I told every female in the family at least, that little painted brown table upstairs in that room up there with the lamp on it? Mama told me her daddy, that was part of her dowry, and her daddy had built that for her when she and Papa went to him and said they were going to get married because he wanted them to start out with a few pieces of furniture. And she kept the kitchen table in her basement till the day she died, but nobody knew or cared. I told everybody, I said, that one's down there. But anyway, I said, Mama, I don't know what, but at the auction, if that little painted brown lamp table comes up, please bid on it. She got it for $3. Nobody even bid against her because everybody was like, oh, I want the phone. I want the fancy thing. I need that really, or I need the choice thing that we grandparents always wanted. Like, I want the nativity scene, and I want, I'm not going to go into it. I need to get off of it. Okay, so here's the thing about the family, right? Well, my grandparents were angels. They were fine Christian people, upright, scared to sin, angry at sin, both of them. Mama was Methodist and Papa went to the Christian church, Disciple of Christ, but they really never missed a Sunday unless they really could not miss a Sunday. My Papa had a big row of Sunday school pins, like bars, where he never missed Sunday school for many, many years. And at the end of the year, they would give you these bars, and he wore them proudly. And my sister Tony, because she remembered him going, because he would take her when she was a little tyke, she inherited those. Mama let her have those, and that was sweet, because she deserved those. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you about my mama. My mama, Effie Calden, son of Ed and Martha Calden of Love Ridge. Now, Martha's sweet. She's really kind of pretty. I think she's kind of pretty. I mean, people always go, oh, my great-grandmother's beautiful. Most times they were not. Most times they were not. But she's quite pretty. And my mom said that. She said, look, she's kind of pretty, isn't she? And I thought that too. Late in life, she was given to bouts of depression, which was like, oh, God, maybe we should have her institutionalized. But that wasn't it. It was just regular old damn depression. They didn't have anything to do for it. Anyway, so here's the thing about Mama's people. I got to get this done like in 5 minutes. So this is a deep, dark secret. So these Calvin children of Love Ridge Road in Chaplin, Kentucky, they were split right down the middle. There was no mid-ground. These children, each child, was either an absolute angel or an absolute demonic devil from hell. That's just how it was. And it was no different. And I'm going to tell you, in this picture, okay, I don't have judgment. I don't have judgment for my great-grandparents, but I'm telling you, Aunt Lola was an angel. Uncle Hugh was as angelic as a person could ever be. No, this was Aunt Lola. Aunt Lola, angelic. Uncle Hugh, very angelic. Aunt Irma, angelic, and looks very much like a young Tatum O'Neal in Paper Moon in this picture. Now, here we've got Russell and... Okay, I think this is Russell, and this is... Oh, God. I think that this uncle right here was a big drunk who was always on the make, and he called himself Todd for some reason. His name was not Todd, but he called himself Todd, and he would try and lay up with people and mooch off of them. And one time he went and tried to lay up and mooch off of my Uncle Billy and his roommate Hook Wright, because they were young men in Louisville, just striking out on their own, sharing a small apartment. And they came home from work, and there was a mattress fire on the sidewalk. He had taken their mattress out into the sidewalk and caught it on fire. That's what I think the story is. Anyway, he was not a really, really great person. Now, the other brother here, he disappeared mysteriously. There was one brother, and I don't know if he's here or not, but he was a biker, and he was in a biker gang, and he was not completely on the up and up. And he drove Harley-Davidson motorcycle. And this was when my mama was a little girl, and he was found stabbed near death under what was once the gigantic cedar tree very near the entrance to Plum Run Road on Fairfield Hill, okay? Because he was running with the wrong crowd. Okay, now, I'll tell you a story about that at Halloween, because that goes somewhere else. But right now, I'm going to tell you about this. So, Uncle Todd said, okay, Russell. I think it's Russell. I think Russell is the one. Okay. So I asked my mom, I said, well, whatever happened to that brother? And she said, hush, honey, I don't want to talk about it. It's very sad. I said, well, what happened? She said, he burned up in a fire. He just burned up in a house fire. He was trapped in a house that burned up. And I said, oh my God, Mama, I'm so sorry. Tell me about that. She said, well, we don't know for sure, but that's what the last time he was seen. He was inside the house that burned down. Okay, so this is what I found out. And I didn't find it out until pretty recently. Well, I found out a big part of it a few years ago. Okay, he died in a house fire up there somewhere on the other side of Chaplin or near the Washington County line or something. He and his friends went in and robbed a family called the Monroes and killed them, and then burned their house down. And supposedly that uncle, I think it was Russell, I don't know what they called him, he died in that fire because he didn't get out in time. So my grandmother cried, and she said he was just gone after that. This is what I was told by other people because she didn't tell me the whole story. I actually went online, looked stuff up and stuff. Okay, so here's the deal. My friend Jane Cecil, who was about my parents' age and grew up in my hometown, and she was a history maven. She knew everything that happened, and she knew local gossip going all the way back to before she was even born. Her family liked spoken history and things, and she and I went up to the old Bloomfield Cemetery, where so many of our people are buried, and she said, your grandmother's brother is buried right over there in the fence row without a stone. I've never heard that before in my life. She said, well, it's true. And then she told me, she said it was the one who disappeared. It was the one who got in bad trouble and then disappeared, and they thought he was in a house fire. But he showed back up in the 50s, dead. And my grandfather my grandfather and my daddy dealt with that, but no family came forward. They were alerted, but they refused to come forward. And I'm like, Mama no, they did not come forward. He was just laid out and put in the ground like charity. Well, I understand because she was embarrassed because he was a murdering thief. And and her little heart was so pure and clean. It was always so pure and clean. But this is the one that I really love. Mama was not the baby. I think that Sam and Lillian were both born after she was. She was born in 1912. And Sam, angelic. Lillian, demon from hell. Super sexual, over sexual, hypersexual, demonic person. She liked things rough. She was a gangster's mall. I'm telling you, in the 40s and 50s, she was a gangster's mall. And I have looked this shit up, and I found it, proof, folks. So she and her husband in the 1950s and early 60s ran a whorehouse on Market Street in Louisville, just a few spaces down the street from the old Levy Brothers building. The building's still there. It had been known as a brothel for a long, long time. Well, when they had it, the first floor was a pool hall, and the second floor was girls for rent, and the third floor they lived in a luxurious penthouse apartment with a rooftop and everything. So my Uncle Tommy my mother never spoke of them. She never did. I will tell you this because this is really funny. When we were little kids, and even teenagers, we loved to go through the old family pictures that Mama had, and there was this one of she and all of the Colvin sisters standing at like a family reunion. It looks like a picnic, and it looks like it's in the late 30s or early 40s, and it's summertime. They're all wearing, cotton house dresses, nothing fancy, but Lillian is braless, and she's wearing like a white cheesecloth dress. And you can see her nips. And I cannot tell you how many times we grandchildren were told to hush now, put that up. Don't you know? Because even as little kids, we go, Mama, why's her nipples showing like that? You hush. I don't know. She just left it. She said it was all innocent. Whatever. But Aunt Lillian, she was not innocent. Listen, when I went on newspapers.com after I found this out, her husband's name was Roscoe Sailing, and he was a big criminal. And they spent time being criminals together in Indiana, like Jeffersonville, Indiana. They go across the bridge and stuff. Anyway, she was thrown in jail for stealing a car in Indiana and driving it into Kentucky. I found that. And then Roscoe, he got picked up and arrested for some huge crime. And then he said, can I pee? And they just let him go pee. And he just went out the window and disappeared. These people were really, really, really good. And I've got a distant cousin who was the grandson of my Aunt Lillian, and he spoke openly of it with me. And his daddy was one of my daddy's good best friends for life, and he had been married to Aunt Lillian's daughter and had 2 children with her, and he told Daddy about it, how they would go down there, take the kids, and they were full on running a whorehouse right there. Sometime he would just go, they're going there to meet your mother-in-law, and some girl tries to pick you up on the way up the stairs. Anyway, so that's a family secret. So I'm going to tell you a few more of these, and then when I'm through, because this all winds up in a really good place, and I hope that you stick with me and listen to chapter 2, 3. Maybe I'll get to the end of it by chapter 4. But here's the deal. I want to tell you about what happens when other people think that they know your family secrets, and they come to you and they go, I know a family secret on your family. And the thing is, they really don't know shit. And the truth is, you know a lot of really scalding truths on their family because you've been actual best friends with members of their family, and you know how dysfunctional their family can be. But anyway, I'll tell you about the time the focus was on mine and everybody got involved. It was very, very wild and frantic, and I found out like a lot of who my friends were. And I also found out a lot of shit doesn't matter, but it is good to get shitty people out of your way. That's a good thing. Don't put up with shittiness along the way. If they're shitty, just move on. I've had people who consider me shitty who have moved on. I think they know who they are. I've lost 2 or 3 really best friends, people I really considered kind of soulmates, and I've lost them because of what they call in the program that I respect, character assassination. Doesn't matter. What it boils down to is, evidently Trump's got charisma. Evidently, I don't see it. It doesn't come across on TV. Well, it might to certain people who have, I don't know. It might to certain people, but it doesn't. It doesn't to me. But my friend has got charisma, and he's got charisma, and he's got more talent than most people, but nothing to write home about. He's just kind of like 80% charisma, 20% steam. Look, I ain't got no charisma. I've never had charisma. I've always been the little chicken in the scientific experiment with the peck of blood on my head. Once somebody saw, oh, he's unique, let's kill him. That's kind of what I escaped all my life. But anyway, I'm going to shut up because we're at 22 minutes and this is long. And I hope that you enjoy it because I'm going to tell you more about the deep, dark family secrets from my family in Bloomfield and Chaplin, Kentucky, and a little bit of Fairfield. I love you. Have a wonderful remainder of this Thursday. And always remember me for the way I look. That's sickening. That actually, I wanted to say something repulsive because I think it's funny. But then when you do, it's like, oh, that really... Okay, bye, y'all. Bye. Gotta go. Bye. Bye.